My family means the world to me. It wasn't always like that. At one point in my life, I chose drugs over my kids. By the time I was 17, I'd had 2 kids. My life was all but crazy at that point. By the time I was 18, I had 2 toddlers, and I really wasn't sure what direction I needed to go. I felt myself leading more. I was tired of being a mom at that point, and drugs really became a part of my life. At that point, Alexis and Hunter were both with me, and it slowly progressed. They'd go to their grandparents for a weekend, and I'd party, and then I'd get them back, and then that turned into 4 days, and then 5 days, and then 6 days, and before you knew it, they were keeping the kids all week, and I was getting them sporadically. Eventually, that led to their grandparents having them all the time, and I was pretty much an absent mom. Things didn't change about 2 years before I actually moved to South Carolina, but I left my kids with their father. We were here. I got sober. My life started changing, but that part of my life, leaving my kids behind, was pretty hard. I thought about them constantly, and not having a relationship with your daughter is awful. It's miserable. You have that piece of you that you can't feel because they're gone. They're not there. They can't see you all the time, and how do they know that you love them? You can tell them over the phone, but they never get a hug or a kiss from you. 2 years after I'd been sober, I started getting visitation rights, and they started coming during the summer and holidays, and it's still just not the same. I mean, you see them sporadically through a year, and how can a mom have a relationship with her kids barely seeing them?
My first real memory of not having a mom and realizing that was my first day in kindergarten, or a few days in kindergarten. I realized that they were having a custody battle, and I didn't know who I was going home with, whether it would be my mom or my dad. After the custody battle, my mom got visitation rights, and we started going out of town a lot more, and I just kind of thought that was normal. I thought everybody did it. After that, everything started hitting hard. I realized that it wasn't normal. I started getting older and talking about it with people, and it kind of hit hard, and I blamed myself for a really long time. My 5th grade year, I realized that I really needed my mom. The girl's got needs, and I needed my mom. She told me to ask my dad, and I talked to my dad about it, and it was difficult. On that ride home that day, I watched my dad cry for the first time, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done, was tell my dad I didn't want to be with him.
The summer of Lexi's 5th grade year, she came to me and asked if she could move to South Carolina from Mississippi. So that summer, the end of that summer, we went and sat down with her dad and discussed with her dad that, she had made a decision and really wanted to move down here with me. That was a huge, huge turning point in my life of realizing that I had not completely messed my daughter up, that there was a lot of healing, and I could actually shop with my daughter. I could eat dinner with her. There was so much that happened in that first year that made up for a lot of things that I had missed.
Living in South Carolina with my mom was really different. My first year was the roughest. Going to a new school, new friends, new rules was really hard. I didn't have any rules in Mississippi. I was with my grandparents. With my mom, there was rules. There was set boundaries. I couldn't do this after this time. I couldn't do that. I had a bedtime. There was groundings, and this was all new to me.
When Alexis moved in, the emotional roller coaster was very, very hard. It was hard watching your daughter have to make a huge decision to move from all she knew and move in with a family that she saw part-time. She came into a family with me and a stepdad and a stepbrother that was, 6 years younger than her, and it was a huge adjustment. The emotional of not necessarily wanting to go back, but, we'd have issues of, a fight or whatever, and her first request was she'd want to go back. I want to go back to my dad's. Through that year, things got a lot easier as time went by, but there was a lot of mending that needed to be done. There was a lot of forgiving myself, letting go of all the hurt that I had caused her, or that I felt I had caused her.
Growing up, church just wasn't one of the things we did. But when I moved here, church became a huge thing. We went to church on Sundays, and I started getting into the groove of going to Element, and it really changed me. I accepted Christ into my life when I was 7th grade, maybe, I think. Having a relationship with Christ has made so many things easier. I can finally forgive myself. I can go on about my life and not just regret anything and hold back on anything. I know that I can go through anything with Christ.
Forgiving myself through this whole process has been very challenging. It took a lot of work, and it's still progress. I'm not complete. I can't say that I've completely forgiven myself for the things that I've caused, the hurt I've caused my kids. But I can say that it's better. Working through the 12 steps through Celebrate Recovery and becoming closer with Jesus has been a huge turning point in my life, as far as being able to reach out and, hug my kids and tell them I'm sorry, and, just being brutally honest of where, my road began and where it ended and where this new life has taken me. And so the process of forgiving is a daily thing. It's not over. And but watching them be able to forgive me helps me forgive myself.
I have a great relationship with my mom. We do everything together. We know everything about each other. I'm just so happy to have her back as my mom.